Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 9, Episode 64. He's Dave Bryan, SteelersDepot.com. I am Alex Kozora. Happy Friday to you, Steelers Nation. And Dave, you won big on the slots last night, right? Those penny slots, right?
No, and no. I do enjoy. I have sleep disorders and other disorders and all like that. So sometimes it's good just to. And look, I mean, Thursdays, I think you would probably agree for us is when things slow down for just maybe a minute or two. And,
Speak for yourself. Not over here.
And then after that injury report comes out on Thursday, get into looking at a little bit more tape of the opposition there, and I don't know, at least to me, it feels like I have a chance to breathe maybe come Thursday evening there. So I escaped out about midnight last night and walked around the casino for a little bit and did lost a little, helped support the city, and then back to the house I come for a 90-minute nap and back at it.
Well, one man in New Orleans who I guess is kind of placing an unofficial bet, a good segue into our first topic here, is Cam Jordan, who the big quote yesterday kind of blew up, everyone talking about it. I honestly thought it was kind of an overblown story, but I'm sure you guys want to hear about it. Cam Jordan basically saying that, Ben isn't one of the top 5 quarterbacks of this era, and that he'd put in guys like Eli Manning and I believe Phillip Rivers over him. Jordan said, quote, "I would put Eli before I put Ben. Agree to disagree." Jordan said. So honestly, I thought it was just kind of one of those stories that get made up during the week because it's end of the week and things are getting kind of boring. But what did you think?
Yeah, he's a guy that hasn't been shy in the past when he gets a microphone stuck in his face to say some things that spark a little controversy. And he kind of recanted late last night, if you will, on Twitter about the whole Hall of Fame credentials. I think he was more along the lines or trying to backpedal now and say maybe not first ballot Hall of Fame, which I think he's kind of ludicrous, even insinuating that. Would you really put Eli Manning ahead of Ben Roethlisberger right now? Maybe back when he was slaying the Patriots, maybe some would. Obviously, a lot of people are going to put Brady and Breeze probably ahead of Ben, depending on who you talk to, and probably not this season. Aaron Rodgers hasn't had a great season this year. Obviously, the Packers are not going to make the playoffs. Rivers is having a nice season. You don't want to take away from that. Rivers, I've always considered Rivers to be kind of right there with Ben, but behind him in any kind of rankings that you would do. But look, he stuck his foot in his mouth. It's going to. We'll see how much actual bulletin board material or motivation or chip on shoulders this creates. I don't think the Steelers are probably paying it too much mind. I think we would hear more about it maybe from Ben if he were to slay the Saints this week in New Orleans there. So look, it created a stir on social media yesterday, that's for sure.
Oh, that if the Steelers win, Ben's going to sit in his press conference after the game and be like, okay, hopefully that got me in the Hall of Fame. Like, he's going to do one of those sly, subtle Ben remarks that come up every now and then. Obviously,
he'll ask. I don't know. I'll let you guys just say. He'll say something along the lines. I don't know. Does that in my top 5 now? Or
yeah.
He is the king of passive aggressive.
Right.
That would be an interesting. I doubt we'll hear from him make a comment on it. Obviously before game time, but after game time, and obviously Pouncey I think chimed in a little bit on it. when he was asked after practice on Thursday about the comments Cam Jordan made. And I thought Cameron Heyward, he was on Sirius Satellite Radio last night, and I thought he had one of the better quotes here. I'll read to you. He says, on the comments made by Cameron Jordan about Ben, he says, I understand he's got his top 5, and he's probably seen more of those NFC guys, but you better be ready for that monster coming in your house. So I thought that was good. And then he follows it up with saying, Ben's got 2 Super Bowl rings for a reason. He's putting on a show this year as well. His numbers haven't slowed down. You better be ready to think he's top 3, because that dude, not a lot of guys can do what he does. So Captain, speaking up for Captain, if you will, on Sirius, and that was a fun couple of quotes there that I think I'll write up later today.
It was obviously inaccurate and a wrong statement that Jordan made. Of course, Ben's better than Eli, I think, obviously right now, and even if you look totality of their careers. So I don't agree with him at all, but it's just the game of the bulletin board material, the weak stuff. And like Heyward said, like I thought, you're seeing more of Eli Manning. Jordan knows more of Eli Manning. Only played against Ben once back, I think, his rookie year in 2014. So I think those are factors involved. And end of the day, it doesn't matter what Cam Jordan thinks. It doesn't matter how Cam Jordan ranks his quarterbacks. It doesn't change the reality of the situation. So, and to be fair, in the same interview, Jordan did have a couple, praiseworthy comments about Ben, saying how well he's played this year and he's a monster and a tough guy to bring down. So it wasn't a Jalen Ramsey go after the guy and rip him to shreds kind of thing, at least in my mind.
No, it wasn't. But look, I mean, that section of the quote sheet's going to get highlighted when you say something like that. No,
but definitely. So. Any other thoughts? It wasn't a huge story for me. Just the internet firestorm that pops up.
No, I think it'll be more interesting, like I said, if Ben and the Steelers win this game this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the post-game press conference might be the most interesting part. But moving on to what matters really this weekend, Steelers injury report came out. You were right. I was wrong. Really, you should just kind of get that as a bumper sticker. It looks like James Conner's not going to play this weekend. My optimism was probably misplaced, but I guess that isn't a huge surprise considering the nature of the high ankle sprain.
Yeah, and I didn't say I appreciate the pat on the back. I won't stop you from doing that. But I wasn't adamant that I didn't think he was going to play. When you get with these high ankle sprains, man, you don't know what's going on there. And the fact there was a little bit of reason to be optimistic with him at the end of last week because he was listed as a limited participant. But then when he quickly gets downgraded the next day to doubtful, that's when you say, maybe something more is going on there. And he of course, he talked to the media on Wednesday. I'm sure Mike Tomlin wasn't happy with him for this, kind of sharing that he's day to day and that he's just not ready. And once he said that on Wednesday, and obviously didn't practice on Wednesday, didn't practice on Thursday, at this point, I think both of us would be absolutely shocked if he suited up against the Saints on Sunday there. So the rest of the injury report, a little bit of, mostly positive, but a little bit of negative in there. JuJu Smith-Schuster was placed on the injury report on Thursday as limited after leaving practice early with a groin injury. Now, groins, that means I got to speculate here, and I'm going to be careful here because I do better speculating about groins when I see said groin injury happen. And I think all this, me speculating on groins, goes all the way back to maybe I don't know, what year was it, season opener with Farrier, I think, back against the Titans, where he ended up missing, I don't know, what did he miss?
I don't know. You're the one that knows all the obscure stuff from 10 years ago.
And you saw him. It was either against the Titans or the Jets or something like. Maybe it was against the Jets in maybe a third game of the season or something. I said, that didn't look good there. That's about when I started speculating about groins, I think. But I'm not going to speculate so much about JuJu's groin, but I will tell you that Jeremy Fowler reported yesterday that James Washington said he would be ready to start if necessary, but he believes Smith-Schuster will be fine. So we'll see how good of groin speculator, is that a word? groin speculator.
No, it's not. I pray that's not a word.
A groin speculator rookie James Washington is. So keep your fingers crossed with the Friday injury report when it comes out that it says JuJu Smith-Schuster full, because, look, if they don't have him against this Saints team on Sunday, it's already going to be tough enough. They have all these guys, other than James Conner, ready to go. It really will be tough if they don't have JuJu Smith-Schuster. The rest of the injury report looks good. Terrell Edmonds, after being, I think, limited on Wednesday with a concussion, went full on Thursday. Sounds like he's coming out of protocol. Bud Dupree, who did not work at all because of a knee contusion, practiced fully. Cameron Heyward practiced fully with a knee hyperextension, fully for a second day in a row, and the guys that had been given off coaches' days off, or I should say Veterans Days off on Wednesday, Ben and Marquise Pouncey returned to practice fully on Thursday. So we would expect James Conner to be down, and really I think the only one, maybe barring Terrell Edmonds having some sort of setback or whatnot, it looks like JuJu might be the only other one we have to worry about right now. And quickly flipping it, and this will play into a little bit into our breakdown conversation about the Saints and all that we're going to have here in a few minutes. Jerome Bushrod, their starting left tackle, did not practice again on Thursday. He's probably the biggest name to watch here with him. He injured that hamstring against the Panthers. Max Unger, who suffered a concussion against the Panthers, had to leave early. He was limited after not practicing on Wednesday. Sounds like he's trying to get out of the protocol. Obviously, I don't know where he's at and all that, but I think I'll be surprised if he's unable to go. It'll be a huge blow if he can't, obviously, and if Bushrod can't. The other four guys on their practice injury report: Andres Pete, their left guard, limited. Ryan Ramczyk, their starting right tackle, limited. Punter Thomas Morstead, limited with an ankle. He got that when he was kind of roughed up in that game against the Panthers. He should be fine. I don't think they've signed another punter yet, so that's a pretty good sign there. And Teron Armstead, their normal left tackle, has missed the last, I think, 5 games with a pectoral and knee, or with a knee. I think they added pectoral to that now, has been limited. I don't think they're expecting him to go, being as how they had signed. They swapped out a reserve tackle on the back end on the 53 either yesterday or the day before. The key thing here, I think, and we'll get into this, like I said, in a little bit, I think Max Unger goes. If he doesn't, Cameron Tom, I think, would get the start at center, because he's the one who filled in for them after Unger left against the Panthers. And if Bushrod can't go, their left tackle, then that means Andres Pete's going to have to probably kick back out to the left side, and that would be a huge, or I always shouldn't say huge, somewhat of an advantage for the Steelers in that aspect. And also, if Unger does play, then maybe a guy like Cameron Tom has to start at left guard in place of Andres Pete, and then we could have some cam-on-cam crimes going on.
I'd almost want Cam on Pete crimes, because I watched Pete, who played tackle at Stanford, really struggle as they kicked him inside. Like, he plays tall, he plays like a tackle, he kind of leans, and I think Cam Heyward could just destroy Andres Pete. So we'll see what happens with the injury report. Obviously, the Saints have some big issues and big question marks along the offensive line. The left side looks like a mess right now heading into Sunday. So you'd think on paper Steelers can win, but we've had this song and dance before where Steelers have played some really bad offensive lines, and the results haven't always, been in turn.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why you kind of hesitate to say, oh, this is a huge advantage that the Steelers, front seven should be able to take advantage of. And look, they got this cat back there. I don't know if you heard under center. His name is Drew Brees. He's a pretty good quarterback, and as Mike Tomlin likes to say, or has said the last like 3 of the last 4 weeks, he has a lot of autonomy at the line of scrimmage. Wouldn't that be a unique name for a kid? Name your son that.
I'm sure someone out there is named Autonomy.
Autonomy. You should name your son Autonomy Kozora.
Bold, you would assume that I'm going to have kids?
Well, I don't know. Do you practice?
Right now, the prospects of me living in mom's basement Pretty narrow field out there.
There is, I don't know how I would, I can't imagine. Philip Rivers has what, like his ninth kid on the way
Right.
now. I couldn't imagine being a father to one. I don't know how some of these people do it. I just, I don't have the nerves or the mental capacity. I don't think to handle such a thing.
I'm gonna let that one go. I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one.
All right, let's see. Where do you want to go now?
I
You
want to
to
go
talk
to any other conversation.
any other way but that?
The refs. You had a good topic on the referees. So maybe you see a lot of yellow this weekend.
Well, I think not the home team. I think there's a good chance that the Steelers might, and I'm trying to pull that article up with the Saints numbers on it with the ref anyway. Here, hold on just a minute. Let's see what we got here. It's Craig Rolstead. Craig Rolstead is the referee that did the Steelers. What was it? The Week 8 or Week 9 game against the Baltimore Ravens. I think the thing that sticks out about the Craig Rolstead crew is the imbalance of penalties that have been called this season, more so on the visiting team than the home team. Only 38.73% of those penalties assessed in the, I think, 13 games that crew has done this year have gone against the home team here. And entering Week 15, and that's 9.82%. below the league average of 48.55% for penalties being assessed to the home teams this season. All this data, of course, comes courtesy of Pro Football Reference. They don't have, the thing is, I had to aggregate all this into a table, and all it took a little bit of time. Took a longer time to aggregate the data that did write the post about it. But once again, if you don't remember, the Rolstead crew did the Steelers Week 9 road game earlier this season against the Baltimore Ravens, and the 13 total penalties assessed in that contest for 128 yards. 8 of them, totaling 103 yards, went against Pittsburgh, with obviously the others going against the Ravens there. There were 3 defensive pass interference penalties against the Steelers in that game, and I think a couple of holding calls and maybe a offensive hold or a defensive holding call, or I forget how the holding calls broke down there. I know there were at least 2, I think, in that game on the offensive line. May have been one on an offensive wide receiver or something like that. But it makes you wonder if this is the kind of thing that will balance it or start balancing itself out, or if these percentages will stay low. I wouldn't bat an eye at it really if it wasn't such a big difference in what the league average is here, being that almost 10% difference in the league average. If there's any consolation to all this, it's that the home teams only have a .540 winning percentage in the games that Rolstead's crew has officiated so far this season, and that's just slightly below the league average of .610. Now, the penalties, what is that crew mostly calling? 54 of those have been offensive holding. 34 have been false starts, which should be pretty evident when it happens. Obviously.
Well, this year.
Yeah. So 54 was the top call. 54 holding calls is the top penalty by that crew. 34 false starts. They have called defensive pass interference 19 times, and as I just already previously mentioned, I think there were 3 in that game against the Steelers and the Ravens there. Defensive offside 9 times. Defensive holding 8 times. And then, it kind of trickles on down from there. So, with it being loud in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, we should. You think we get one for a bowl game or a venue named after the McLumina?
They're naming it after everything these days. I wouldn't put it past them.
I hear you. But it'd be interesting to see what transpires. With that crowd noise, because you got to know that that place is going to be rocking this week. And that's one of the big obstacles that I think the Steelers have to overcome this week, is that whole crowd noise thing with some of these younger guys, on the offensive side of football there. the communication factor, supposedly, or not supposedly, Ben earlier in the week talked about, what's the biggest thing they can do to kind of combat, to prepare themselves for this. And he says not talk all week. And, I imagine they've had the music and the crowd noise pumped in at practice this past week. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that aspect of this game.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I'm glad that you researched that because it is stuff the coaches pay attention to every week. It gets talked about during the week that these refs call this or that, or these refs are going to be more flag happy than others. It'll be an interesting dynamic because we know the first half of the season the Steelers were basically on a franchise record pace of penalties and leading the league in penalties, and they've done a great job of fixing that, and there's been a huge drop-off, only 6 penalties the last 2 weeks. They're now 16th overall for the season in penalties, so you consider they were first, now they're 16th. That means that the back half of the year, they've probably been top 5 in penalties against, with the fewest penalties assessed against them, so that's been a huge turnaround, so something's got to give. Steelers have done a great job of being disciplined. You got a flag-happy kind of official crew for the road team this week. What's going to give? And we know the Saints play very disciplined football. I think they're 4th in penalties assessed against them. So, yeah, you certainly can't have a 10, 15 penalty game because the margin of error is going to be too thin against the Saints. And the Patriots experienced that last week, penalized 14 times. Steelers penalized only twice. That was one of the big differences in the game.
Maybe my post, maybe Craig Wallstead Googled his name this past week, and maybe he read my post on it. Maybe that'll culminate in his crew maybe throwing that flag 1 or 2 less times. If it happens, if there's a balance in the Steelers' favor, I'm going to take full credit for it. Okay.
I would expect nothing. Yeah, they're gonna meet up, and then you're gonna see the refs huddle, and they're gonna pull.
Yeah, they're gonna say, Dave Bryan called us out on Steelers Depot this week, so we better be careful here. Unless it's blatant, keep that flag in your pocket.
Yep, it's going to be on the Showtime episode of the game this week when they're mic'd up. Yep, that's exactly what's. Thank you, Dave, for your service.
I appreciate
it. Where did you want to go from here? I'm not even sure what else we have.
Anything stick out on the comment sheet from Keith Butler and Randy Fichtner?
Not really. Just talking about James Washington getting his confidence. And, Fichtner made the good point of kind of once you make the first big play like he did Sunday against the Patriots, then the other ones become easier because you've proven it to yourself. You've proven it to teammates that, hey, I'm capable of making these plays. The game's kind of slowing down. You get your confidence up. So hopefully that'll be big for Washington, especially if JuJu can't play. Hopefully if JuJu plays, he'll be a really critical piece. But if he can't, then you have Washington playing with some confidence this week.
All right. What else do we have to get to before we start breaking this game down?
That was all I think that I had. I did go over the charting. I know I don't get to do that as often as I should, but I went through the whole defensive charting that we did, and it's really interesting to see kind of the personnel grouping usage, how evenly split it is among each individual grouping. Dime is leading the group, but narrowly at 33.8%, Nichols at 32.7%, and their base 3-4s at 32.2%. So obviously, sub-package still dominates as you would expect, but there's really been a very even split in terms of the individual. It's usually been either, in the early 2000s, the base 3-4 was used 50% of the time. The last couple of years, nickel has been used 50% of the time. They really evened it up this year. They haven't matched personnel as cleanly as in the past. So just interesting to see the personnel groupings. And then Keith Butler blitz numbers continue to be at an all-time high for him. So a lot of pressure being sent.
And speaking of pressure, I think one of the things that stood out to me that I wrote about on Thursday was with Keith Butler. Look, I mean, make no mistake about it, Steelers are one of the highest, according to the ESPN stats, one of the most blitzing teams in the league this year. But the Saints and Drew Brees are one of the best teams in the league. Or Breeze is at handling the blitz and putting up good numbers against that. In fact, I think he's got the top passer rating against the blitz right now, heading into Week 15. I'm trying to find my numbers on this one right here. His passer rating, according to ESPN Stats and Info, 127.1. That's tops in the league against the blitz this year. Now, the Steelers, well, I guess I should add one other aspect to this is according to the tape that I watched the last several days, only one of Brees' 5 interceptions this season have come against the blitz, and that happened in the game against the Minnesota Vikings. He's also only been sacked 15 times so far this season, and according to my quick rundown of those stats, it looks like about only maybe 8 or 9 of those came via a blitz of some type. It's probably now a good time to point out that Brees has only been sacked 7 times and intercepted just once in the Saints' 6 home games played so far this season, and 5 of those 7 sacks came on third downs. Additionally, 20 of Brees' 20 of his 31 total touchdown passes this season have come at home in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
Yeah, obviously Brees is going to do a great job at home. And he just gets the ball out so quick. There's no one in football that has a quicker release than Drew Brees, and that's what makes him so tough to get to, and that's why it's difficult. Do you want to blitz him? Because odds are your blitz probably isn't going to get home. So I think this week you rely on the 4-man rush against the beat-up Saints offensive line and hope that Watt and Tua, Heyward, Dupree get the job done.
You can blitz him, but you better not do it in the 5 and 6 number category. You better send a DB and disguise it real well. If you don't disguise that thing real well, he will go right after you and tear you up in that aspect of it. So they're really going to have to play back a little bit more, if you will. Obviously there's going to be times when you're going to want to try to blitz them. But once again, we talk about last week against Brady how they did such a good job or a better job at disguising coverages and all. And of course, pressuring Brady was a big aspect of that game. They're going to have to step that up even a notch further probably this on Sunday against the Saints.
Dave, what else scares you about the Saints offense?
Play action.
Yeah, they do it a lot.
They do. I think Brees, on average, probably 5 to 7 times a game. And all this obviously is comes off of them you're being able to run the football successfully early in games. They've got a nice mixture of Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram in the backfield. Both those guys, I think, are averaging over 5 yards a carry this year. A little bit slightly better than that, even on 1st and 10 situations. Their offensive line has been good. A lot, some good kind of misdirection stuff in there. They'll run the power, of course, all the staples in there as well too. But I think the thing that kind of really stuck out to me when going through a lot of tape last night was the fact that how well Drew Brees uses play action. It's not too heavy. I think he ranks probably right around in the middle of the league as far as times that he uses it. But man, he is deadly. I think he, according to Pro Football Focus, 142.8 passer rating.
Oof.
When using it. 11 of his touchdowns have come off of play action and no interceptions off of play action as well too. His yards per attempt probably right around in the middle, about 9.4 yards per attempt on play action. 76% completion percentage in those situations as well too. And look, he's deadly with it. And I like what they do with some false keys in there. They'll pull a guard. They'll run some fake counter stuff on an early down, say a 1st and 10 or a 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 8 situation there. They'll pull the guard, run play action, and then try to hit you either seam or on an out route, or depending on coverage, of course, where he goes with that. But it buys Drew Brees a little bit of extra time, and he's so good at carrying out his play actions. A lot of times you see those linebackers and those safeties just get frozen.
Yeah, they do a great job of making those passes look like runs. They set up a lot of false keys. You got to be disciplined to play this group. And for me, they're just through the runs really effectively, and so that makes maybe play action a little more impactful. I think that obviously it's a little overstated to say you have to be able to run the football to set up play action. You can do it the other way around, but it's a team that's number 1 in rushing touchdowns. They got a 2-headed monster, and although their offenses looked really poor the last 3 weeks, I think they're averaging, 20 points a game, which is low for them. At home, which they haven't played at home the last 3 weeks, they've all been road games, they're averaging 37 points per game. And I think they scored 48 the last time that they played in New Orleans. So I expect this offense to bounce back in a big way this weekend.
Yeah, and I don't know how I mean, you've obviously, you and the guys already got great breakdowns up on SteelersDepot.com. The last several games, it didn't look so intricate, I guess, scheme-wise for them offensively, but the execution has been, fairly good. It might have a lot to do with a little bit of younger names outside. I mean, make no mistake about it. Everybody knows who Michael Thomas is, but a lot of people might not know they know who Michael Thomas is, they know who Alvin Kamara is, they know who Breeze is, and they know who Mark Ingram is. But a lot of the other guys, people might not, they're not household names, if you will.
And really, they're not even household names to the Saints and Saints fans because there isn't a lot of depth. They're struggling to find a number 2 receiver. I think of all the receivers that are active this year on their current roster behind Michael Thomas and not counting Alvin Kamara, they have like 37 receptions among just the wide receivers. So just struggling to find other guys to get involved. But when they had the top talent they have, it is truly top talent. And Thomas, who's a top 5 receiver, catching almost 90% of his targets this year, leading the league in, I think, receptions and is 7th in yards. Kamara, who's a great asset out of the backfield. So, they have that top talent you have to deal with. And so it's going to be a similar game plan to New England, where I think you have to bracket Thomas and Kamara and find ways to take those guys away and force everyone else to make plays.
Yeah, he will, and on third downs, too. I mean, obviously he'll look to Thomas, and then I think Kamara might be usually his next option on third downs there. If you don't keep these guys behind the chains on early downs, and if you let this offense get in a rhythm early, you're in trouble with them. I think some of the things we've seen over the last couple of weeks is some teams have been able to get them, keep them behind the chains at least kind of early and kind of get them off schedule a little bit there. But if you don't do that, and if they come out being able to run the football 4, 5, 6, 7 yards at a time, and get into some second and short or third and short situations, you're going to be in trouble here with them. And, a couple of things I noticed when they do get down into the red zone, well, really anywhere on the field, they're not afraid, and you mentioned, I think earlier, they're not afraid to use that fullback and put him on the field, whether it be, inside their own 20-yard line, in the middle of the field, or inside the opposing red zone. And Breeze is not afraid to split Kamara out. They will go empty on you. In almost in any situation, down deep in the goal line, man. If you let them inside the red zone, especially inside the 10, I don't know how you're going to keep them out of the end zone. They do such a great job. They'll mix in some heavy packages at times. It's hard to get a bead on what they actually like to call down inside the 10, because it looks like they have so many variations of score plays in those situations. And one to be on the lookout for is they will go with a super heavy set in those situations. They'll put a fullback in the backfield ahead of, say, either Kamara or Ingram, and they'll run play action to that fullback or H-back or whoever's back there. He'll act like he's blocking, then he'll leak right out to the left side for an easy pitch and catch. I mean, they do such a good job at mixing this stuff up. And like I said, when you have a weapon like Kamara, they can do a lot of different things with him. And while I didn't find the offense overly complex, once again, they execute very well.
Everyone's getting involved, whether that's the fullback, like you said, Zach Line, whether that's Drew Brees. He has 4 rushing touchdowns this year. Obviously, it's all goal line stuff, but that's tied second in the NFL with Prescott and Cam Newton. Like, that's insanity for a 39-year-old. And so I think you made a great point about the red zone. They're second in the NFL in home red zone offense. The number 1 player in the NFL in red zone receptions is Alvin Kamara with 19. The number 2 player in the NFL in red zone receptions is Michael Thomas with 18. So inside the 20, we got to find 41. We got to find Michael Thomas. Those are the 2 guys you got to take away. But then, like you said, they will do everything to get guys involved.
And if they get in around that 40 or 50-yard line, either side of it, around that area, Drew Brees, much like Ben Roethlisberger, is not afraid to take the shots there. And watch for them to run that play action, fake counter with a deep corner off of that, especially if they get a cover 3 look from the Steelers there.
The last guy I want to talk about for the offense, and you can really apply this to offense, defense, special teams. I know we mentioned it Wednesday with Nick Underhill on, but Taysom Hill I mean, that guy just does everything for them. He might be the technical third string quarterback, but he runs, he catches, he tackles, he plays teams, he runs down kicks and punts. And I mean, have you ever seen a player like Taysom Hill before?
Tebow, right? I mean,
but Tebow wasn't using the same. He was got similar build, but he wasn't playing on the special teams unit.
No. I mean, but that's the guy that most recent I think I can kind of compare him to.
Yeah. But they don't. No one. I've never seen a quarterback use like Taysom Hill before because he throws blocks on split zones. Like he's kicking guys out. Like it's ridiculous.
Let me tell you though, if it means him coming on the field and one of their other skill players coming off, I'll take that.
Yeah, that's true. But they've been effective, even with him on the field. They've been effective.
And as we pointed to early in the show, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with their offensive line this week. You made a great point. I think Pete is a weakness if he has to play at left tackle, which he has done obviously in the past there. But if they have to put Cameron Tom at left guard, or even like you said, if Bushrod plays on a bad hamstring, which I kind of doubt he will, and Pete plays at left guard, that should be enough. Put it to you this way: Cameron Heyward should be, of all the guys on that defensive line, he should be the one kind of licking his chops right now, because he would be the one that you expect to make the biggest impact in that situation.
Defensive line coach Carl Dunbar has his fish of the week, the weakest offensive lineman that they should win against. It's going to be whoever's facing Cam Heyward for sure.
Wow. Okay, and what else do we have about, as far as the Steelers defending it? What do you expect to see? And I mean, what do you see with Vince Williams and Bostic and Fort? I mean, you're going to have a little bit more speed maybe on the field, but we kind of thought that last week with a guy like James White. I mean, if you throw Vince Williams out there again, I don't know. I'll let you speak on it.
I think it'll be Vince again. I think you roll with the same game plan, and I think Vince is always going to be a challenge to cover Kamara. But James Wood had 5 catches for 25 yards last week. You really limited him. I think you can do the same, similar, maybe not as successful, but similar against the Saints. I just think you're going to need that volume that Tomlin talked about to beat Tom Brady. You can't just have one coverage, one scheme. You got to mix everything up. And so I think it starts with great communication, especially playing on the road in their place. And I think Vince has to be the 3-down guy this week. So I'm expecting really the same as last week, where you're looking at Vince and Bostic and base. Maybe not a lot of nickel. Ford will be the nickel package guy, but maybe not going to play a lot of that. And then Vince be the 3-down guy in their dime personnel next to Morgan Burnett, because I think that communication's again going to be really critical, and you got to have a high volume of plays to defend the Saints. So I think Vince is going to be the guy yet again.
And you got to stop when they do decide to run. They're probably going to run early. You gotta shut it down early, and you gotta jump on. I don't know how many times we've said it this season, but I mean, if there's ever a team that you want to get out of their rhythm and have you chasing them, it's the Saints, because if they get that running game going early and get into any type of rhythm, and you're not, they're able to do what they want to do most of the game, this thing's gonna, might come down again to a fourth quarter play. And I don't want them close on the scoreboard, either ahead or behind late in the game there, especially in playing at home.
Defensively, what are you seeing here from the Saints? Anything sticks out to you?
I think their linebacker core is probably a little bit underrated as a group.
That's fair. I think the defensive line is excellent.
Oh yeah, obviously with Jordan and Rankins, right?
Yep.
Those guys can get after the quarterback. I mean, I think there's a clip floating around of maybe these sacks that Rankins has up until this point, and they're pretty impressive there. So Marquise Pouncey and those guys are going to have their hands full. Cameron Jordan, obviously predominantly left side of their defense. That means the good thing is Matt Filer's played a lot of games now. He's going to get some pretty damn good edge rushers on his side, and the Steelers have a lot of experience of Chip, of having to give him help on that side. He's going to get a little bit more help, obviously, in this game against the Saints, with a guy like Cameron Jordan with some chips and trying to cut off that edge as much as he can. Jordan's got a nice little spin move, I think, that he uses those long arms very well. He's a guy that if he wasn't on the Saints running his mouth, you'd probably want in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
That kind of guy as far as production goes as a defensive end. So he's scary. Rankins is scary. I think their linebackers, that kid out of Florida,
Alex Anzalone.
yeah.
Really good.
He really flows to the football good. Of course, Demario Davis, a guy that we've talked about when he was with the Jets. We thought, who knows, maybe the Steelers would take a look at him this past offseason. That obviously didn't happen. And then on the back end, I think you kind of hit on it, or we did the other day at least. When Eli Apple came in initially, I thought he kind of struggled a little bit there, but I think he's really settled down. They obviously got a veteran back there in the back end, and Kirk Coleman with a few of the younger guys back there. But Lattimore's obviously a beast back there. It's going to allow them to do a lot of things, in their secondary. As far, especially if a guy like JuJu doesn't play.
Just looking at the Saints defense big picture, it's one of the hottest defenses in the NFL right now. 6 straight games where they haven't allowed an opponent to score more than 17 points. That's the longest streak in the NFL this season. And they are strong at every single level and improving, especially in that secondary. But up front, to me, maybe the biggest matchup of the entire game. And there's a ton of matchups to be interested in this weekend. But for me, it's Sheldon Rankins versus David DeCastro. 2 top-tier guys having great seasons. Rankins with a career-high 8 sacks. DeCastro playing as well as ever. Like you said, Rankins has had some great wins this year. He's a guy that has a ton of high-quality sacks. But you have DeCastro, that's a great pass protector. So that's going to be a huge matchup up front. That whole defensive line in general for the Saints is strong. They keep the linebackers free. Like you said, Davis is good. And that secondary has really improved along with the rest of this defense throughout the last 6 games or so. So Eli Apple, Marcus Lattimore had kind of a rough start to the beginning of the year, has really improved. And I'm really impressed by Von Bell, their sub package safety that I think is a really strong athlete.
They will rip that ball away from you in the secondary.
Yeah, it's an aggressive. I think Lattimore has 4 forced fumbles this year for a corner. It's an insane figure.
And I think didn't Bell get one that game the other night against the Panthers? I know I thought they ripped the ball out in that game as well too. The Rankins, Fletcher Cox like.
That's probably fair. I think.
Well, if you say that fast 3 times, you probably get yourself in trouble, wouldn't you?
I'm gonna let that one slide. Luckily, there's no terrible podcast censorship, no FCC on here. No, I think they're pretty similar guys. I think Cox maybe is a little more of an athlete in terms of a speed, kind of guy. But Rankins is a great athlete with really good quickness and excellent hand use. So yeah, we know DeCastro has had his problems with Fletcher Cox in the past, but Rankins is going to be a similar kind of headache.
17 forced fumbles for them this year. Wow. And 10 fumble recoveries. Lattimore has 4. Alex Anzalone has 3. Demario Davis 2. PJ Williams 2, and Von Bell 1. Marcus 1. I mean that secondary rips that ball out like we said. So if you another aspect of what they do, and because of what they saw the Patriots be able to do a couple of times against the Steelers, especially if Jalen Samuels has to play, you're gonna really want to try to test Jalen Samuels and his ability to identify where somebody's coming from. So that I would expect them to get after Roethlisberger numerous times with numbers.
And I was surprised how often they blitz for being a 4-3 team. Most even fronts don't blitz that much because they rely on their front 4, the guys that get paid $50 million to get home, like a Cam Jordan. And they are getting home their defensive line, but they will do a lot of linebacker blitzes. They'll bring Klein, 53. They'll bring Davis, number 56, on some of these kind of fire zone looking blitzes where they stunt and slant and scrape. So you're right. Yeah, Samuels did not play well in pass protection last week, played well everywhere else, but pass pro was an issue. So assuming
and we worried about that the moment he was selected.
Because he didn't do it. He didn't do it the sophomore year. Now, right. he started the year well, and I think overall he's done a nice job for a rookie in the context of a guy that hasn't done it since his sophomore year at NC State. I think there's been some positives with his pass protection, but obviously some rookie woes as well in terms of the recognition. I think whenever he's in position, I think it's better, but identifying where guys are coming from, where the blitz is going to be, and again, playing on the road in a loud dome environment. Guys probably never played in a dome before, I'm guessing, so that's going to be a lot of factors that he's got to deal with.
How are you attacking this? I mean, let's assume JuJu plays. I mean, they had the success with the five wide receivers on the field last week against the Patriots. I think you could see a little bit more of that. This is a Saints defense that's strong against the run. Now, they have jumped out in games where teams really haven't been able to, opposing offenses have had to abandon that run several times against him because the Saints offense will start boat racing them, so that of course has played a factor in this. But when you look at running backs as a whole, the running back position as a whole against this Saints defense, especially at home, when the Saints are at home, it doesn't look very, very good at all. And if Jalen Samuels is back there, I suspect you'll have some more of those kind of those counter tosses and all to help him see the field a little bit better in situations there. But I got to be honest with you, I'm not expecting, unless the Steelers get out to a nice lead and have it in the fourth quarter. And look, we wouldn't have seen as many runs as we saw last week had the Steelers not had the lead in the fourth quarter. Make no mistake about that. I'm not convinced we're going to see a lot of runs in this game for the Steelers offensively early as well too. I think you're going to get a situation where you might be banging your head up against the wall if you try that. Now, obviously, you can't go out there with 5 wide receivers every snap. Ben talked about the drawbacks of that earlier in the week when asked about it. However, you got a guy in Jalen Samuels that's got some experience splitting out wide, so why not maybe use him a little bit more in some empty sets and try to get him a matchup lined up outside?
I tend to agree, and although you're right that teams haven't run on the Saints that much this year, as Tomlin pointed out, as the numbers show, they're only allowing 3.7 yards per carry this year. That's tied second best in the NFL. So even when teams do decide to run on them, and they've been in close games the last 3 weeks, there's been chances for teams to run. They're just not getting anywhere. When you do run the football, I'm keeping it between the tackles. I think trying to go perimeter, it kind of is appealing because the linebackers aren't the best athletes, but I'm worried about trying to run perimeter against these 4-3 ends, these big guys to get matched up on tight ends. They're probably going to build that wall and kind of seal the edge, and we don't want that. So I think you're going to have an interior kind of inside downhill run game, and that's going to be the approach there. In the passing game, I would look to attack their cover too. Run these smash concepts. The Saints love to play cover 2 on early downs. First play of the game, they've played cover 2 the last 2 weeks. So I'm looking kind of run these smash. We're putting corners in conflict of a curl route and a corner route to try to hit the corner route if the corner comes up on the curl. So that's the way I'm kind of attacking this thing. I agree. You want to spread the field out horizontally. You want to get Jalen Samuels involved in the pass game. Again, use that screen game. Steelers run more screens than pretty much any other team in the NFL. That's going to be the biggest, I think, path to how you beat these guys is with the short pass game, the screen game, and things like that.
How many true running back runs by halftime? More or less than 10?
Less.
Yeah, I'm going to go less as well, too.
More than less or 5. I'll make it tougher.
Oh.
Twist your arm.
I'm gonna go less.
I'm gonna go less. I'll say 5 or 6.
All right. I think the best. I'd like to see a lot more 5 wide. I'd like to see the kind of the matchup they could get with putting an extra one out there. Obviously you can't. You got to pick your spots. Probably two series a game. What was it? Primarily it was that long 90-something yard touchdown drive against the Patriots where we saw, I think 9 plays with 5 wide receivers on the field. I think Ben only had 1 incompletion and a pass interference drawn on that play. So I would try to spread them out. This is going to be an attack game, I think, on both sides. I mean, I posted a stat last night. Second quarter scoring this year, you got the number 1 and number 2 teams. The Steelers, I think, at 152 second quarter points, and the Saints at 151 second quarter points. So put your seatbelt on when that second 15-minute start. Another interesting aspect about this Saints defense is, I think, in 6 games this season, the opposing offense has scored the first time that they've had the football. Not necessarily just opening possessions of the game, but if the Saints got the ball and then get the next time, the first time that the opposing offense got the ball, they were scored against. I found that kind of a little bit high when it comes to the Saints. So you got to strike early on these guys. I really am. Look, kudos. They did a great job against the Patriots offense. I think this Saints offense is at least a third better, maybe if not double better.
Do you think if the Steelers win the coin toss, they'll take the ball again? I do.
Why not?
I think so. Yeah, I think the same approach. I think their idea is maybe try to get the crowd out of it a little bit early. I think they'll be aggressive again.
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
Anything else with the Saints as we kind of wrap up them a little bit?
Yeah. What about the special teams? Morstead is a little bit banged up. What did you? I haven't had a chance to look at that aspect of the tape.
Yeah, Morstead's a great punter. They don't punt a lot. There's been, 2 games this year where he hasn't had to punt at all. But he's got a big leg, one of the best punters. Playing in a dome sure helps. Again, you'll see Hill in the return game a little bit, which is, again, is so funny for quarterbacks. Just watch out for number 7. They've blocked 2 punts this year. They do a couple games up front to kind of stress you. I don't think it's anything the Steelers can't handle. I think the Steelers did a great job last week of defending the Patriots and their all-out attack, which led to 3 blocks this year. So special teams always going to play a big factor. I want to see the net punt team or the net punt yardage for the Steelers improve. It's really been poor the last couple weeks with Jordan Berry and company. Limit returns, get some booming punts, some coffin corner stuff. That's going to be a big difference as well.
Is this the best team the Steelers will play this year?
Well, that's tough. They're right up there, as good as anybody.
Especially on the road, and they're the Saints. Yeah. They're at a point in the middle of the season where, Lord have mercy, you thought this is an offensive score of 45 every game. Talking about the Saints,
and at home that's basically what they're doing.
Right.
Their place.
This make no mistake about it, this is a Steelers team that can play with anybody as long as their defense shows up, and.
Yeah.
We get a good performance by them, obviously, last week. Again. Another thing that really stuck out as we wrap up on the Saints defense here is I don't think they've been blistered much of any by tight ends this year. They might rank right down at the bottom of the league as far as yardage and receptions allowed by tight ends.
The Saints defense?
Right.
Is that what you said? I wonder why that is. Their linebacker play is pretty strong, though, and they do get pressure. They got 45 sacks this year, so, yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I want to see Vance have a good game. He's really got involved in the red zone the last 6 weeks, which has been nice, but I do want to see him kind of get involved more overall.
You obviously want to limit possessions in this game for the Saints offense, almost the way the Steelers defense, or the Steelers offense had their possessions limited in the second half against the Patriots there. Drew Brees can't hurt you if he's not on the field.
Yeah, you can take a lot of what we talked about in the Patriots game and apply it to the Saints because they're Hall of Fame quarterbacks with a lot of weapons on the outside. They'll spread you out. They give you a lot of different looks and great coaching with Sean Payton. So a lot of what we said about the Patriots, you can just copy-paste to the Saints.
There was a stat this morning from someone from ESPN. I think 2005 was the last time a team played Brady and Breeze on back-to-back weeks and won both those games. And any guesses of who that team was that did that?
In 2005, someone did?
I think 2005 was the year.
I have no idea.
I think it would be the Broncos was the answer. And okay. I'm going to, go back real quick and look at the Broncos schedule here to see if I remembered that correctly.
Well, in 2004, where the Steelers beat Brady and McNabb back-to-back weeks, which was huge for them at the time.
I thought it said 2005, but it looks like they played New England and then the Giants, the Broncos there. Maybe it was 2004? No, 2002 maybe? I'm having trouble finding it, but I believe the answer was the Broncos. I'm just having problems finding the year that it actually happened. So it's only happened once. It'd be a tough chore for sure.
Before we get to our picks, Dave, you want to talk about our friends over at MyBookie so Steelers Nation can make their picks?
Yeah, absolutely. Bowl season is here, and it's time to get in on the action with MyBookie.ag. Don't be that guy or gal with no rooting interest as your relatives or friends sit around watching the game. Not this year when there are a record 41 bowl games to bet on, including a national championship game on January 7th. It's really the most wonderful time of the year.
Okay.
Make
Nope, not enough of that.
Make sure you're ready for the daily action by signing up at MyBookie today. They pay fast when you win. Ownership really cares about good customer service, and they offer the craziest props that you can bet on. Where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. And if you want to make money during the bowl season, you got to go to MyBookie.ag. I trust them, but you don't have to take my word for it. Check them out all for yourself. Join, and MyBookie will offer you 50% deposit bonus to make sure you have a nice bankroll for the holiday bowl season. Use promo code TERRIBLE, like my singing, when you deposit to activate the offer. That's promo code TERRIBLE at MyBookie. You play, you win, you get paid. I used to be a more decent singer in my younger age.
A band? What's the story?
Yeah.
You the singer? I forget.
Oh no, I was more backup. No,
Okay.
I played bass. Wannabe guitarist. They always play bass. And
Do you guys tour?
sing.
What was the deal there?
No, just minor club events. Sometimes we'd latch on with third-rate bands and do a couple of shows and stuff like that. But nothing almost famous. Kind of stuff there. My brother, my second youngest brother was actually a lot more successful in the music industry than I obviously was. He had a big following up in Detroit for a while there, and he was opening up for. I mean, you got to remember this is back in the 80s, early 90s. Opening up some for Metallica when they were still, kind of finishing out some small club stuff, and some, some bigger band names and all that would come through that area, and they would do tours throughout the Northeast and all like that, kind of club tours and stuff like that. So he was far more the more successful musician than I was.
No, that's really cool.
Don't do drugs.
Noted.
All right, let's get into the MyBookie action here. Washington, so you want a good reason to play Hermit on Saturday for me and you. Washington at Tennessee. This is a game that might affect the Steelers. Hopefully it doesn't. But if you want some rooting interest in here, you better root for Washington to pull the upset against the Tennessee Titans. Titans are favored by 10 at home against the Redskins.
That's a big line, but I know Josh Johnson got the win for him last week. I just don't see it happening again. Give me Tennessee.
Yeah, Derrick Henry playing good. That defense should be able to handle that Redskins offense. And this is such a meaningful game for the Titans. It's going to be at home. They've got to have this. I'm going to lay the 10 as well, too. Not a big game. I bet even Mike Tomlin might even pay attention to this one. The Baltimore Ravens at the Los Angeles Chargers Saturday night. If you're a Steelers fan, you're going to root for the Chargers in this one. Ravens win, and if the Steelers lose, and if the Titans and the Colts win, I don't even want to think about what Monday morning might be like for us to talk about here. But Chargers, they should have Melvin Gordon back this week. It sounds like they're going to have Keenan Allen as well, too. Chargers at home against the running Ravens. Chargers laying 4.5.
Yeah, give me the Chargers. Kind of also hoping for it as much as I think it will happen. Baltimore's played really well, but I just don't know if they have the firepower in the offense to keep up with LA.
You got to get the Ravens out of them being able to run early. Put some points on the board, and you'll be amazed probably how this make Lamar Jackson beat you with his arm, for Christ's sakes. That's the way that you beat these guys, because their defense is good. So if Phillip Rivers and the offense can get out to an early start, this might not be close. Hopefully it's not. I'll take the Chargers lay to 4.5 as well, too. Dallas will host Tampa. Dallas favored by 7.
Yeah, Dallas has just been kind of a weird team. They get shellacked by the Colts last week. Was a 23-0 shutout. I think they do bounce back, knowing how important this game is going to be. Tampa Bay is just kind of floundering offense, defense across the board. So give me Dallas.
I'm gonna say Dallas wins this, but I think the Buccaneers make it close with a late score. So I'm gonna take Tampa plus the 7 points. New England at home against the Buffalo Bills, laying 13.5. Obviously, they won't have Josh Gordon suspended indefinitely by the league again. But Patriots coming off of a loss, they still seeds play play out here. Important game for them. Laying 13.5 at home. I think they boat race Buffalo. I'm laying the points.
I'm going to disagree a little bit just because that Buffalo defense is so good. They don't prevent the big play. New England's going to win this one, obviously, but I think it's like a 10-point game, so I'm going to go Buffalo to cover.
Carolina Panthers at home, I think without Cam Newton now, getting 3 points against the Atlanta Falcons.
Nah, give me Atlanta on this one. Was it Tyler Heineke, I think is what his name is making his first career start. So against Matt Ryan, give me Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm jumping on this one as well, too. Give me Atlanta Falcons on the road against the Panthers, lay to 3. Jacksonville on the road against Miami. Miami laying 3.5 in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Miami. I think this one's kind of close. No Frank Gore, but the run game's still been strong. They got a lot of options in the run game. So give me the Dolphins.
Jaguars are going to have 2 defensive touchdowns in this game. Jaguars are going to win this one outright. Give me that 3.5. New York Giants at the Colts. Colts playing some decent football. It might be all for naught, though, if they don't win out and get a little bit of help. Colts at home against the New York Fighting Eli Saquon Barkleys. Colts laying 9.
Yeah, give me the Colts on this one. It just, if it wasn't for that terrible start they got off to, this would be a really good Colts team. Definitely going to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, got off to the 0-4, 0-5 start, but they're going to win this one by 17.
Quentin Nelson, he's fun to watch, ain't he?
Oh yeah, top rookie.
He is a good offensive lineman. I want the Giants plus 9. Colts win, but I think the Giants make this a little bit closer. This is probably going to be a better game than most people think, at least thanks to what happened last week with the Philadelphia Nick Folks hosting the Houston Texans. Eagles laying 1.5 in this one.
Ooh, yeah, this one's going to be close. Because Foles played so well, it kind of felt like the offense found its footing again, getting Golden Tate involved. Zach Ertz has been one of the best tight ends in football, maybe the second best tight end in football this year. Still, I'm going to go with Houston in this one, but they got to protect Deshaun Watson. They've not found a way to keep him upright all year long, and that's a big problem.
Most sacked quarterback in the league, right?
I think so.
50-something, and normally
is that what it is?
Yeah, normally teams with 50-something, normally teams that lead the league and their quarterback getting sacked don't make the playoffs. Yeah. That's Captain Obvious statement there for the crowd. But give me the Eagles, lay the 1.5. Minnesota Vikings at Detroit Lions. Detroit getting 6 at home.
I know Minnesota's been such a weird team. Kirk Cousins hasn't been. Like I said before, Kirk Cousins is what Kirk Cousins has always been, and you still give him $84 million, all guaranteed. Still, I think the run game has played better. Dalvin Cook had a really nice week last week. I'm going Minnesota.
All right, I'm going Minnesota as well, too. Packers at the Jets. Aaron Rodgers is going to try to finish out the season. Not mailed in. Packers laying 2.5 on the road.
I don't have a good reason for this one, but give me the Jets just because it's been such a terrible and weird season for the Packers. I think they're just kind of maybe checking out, so I'm going to go with the Jets in this one. But, you're looking at new head coaches for both teams next year.
Put this as one of your 3-team parlays. Packers lay to 2.5. Bengals, here's another one you should be parlaying up. Bengals on the road against the Browns. Browns laying 9. I'm laying that 9. I think there'll be like 48 people at that game watching it.
Yeah. Hey, roll with the Browns here, man. They've been a lot of fun to watch. Next year, you better watch out. Cleveland's going to make a serious push for not only a wild card spot, but I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but they're going to making it very interesting.
Trouble in paradise with the Rams right now. I think they'll get things straightened out defensively. This is a good week to try to do that too. On the road against Arizona, Rams laying 14.5.
I've praised the Cardinals' defense all year long, but that offense is just so bad. They can't do anything with Rosen. They haven't gotten David Johnson going. I think the Rams, they need to get back on track. They will. They win by 20.
Yeah, I think Darnold. I mean, Sam. Not.
Goff,
No, Donald.
Aaron Donald,
Aaron Donald. I couldn't think of his.
Sam Darnold playing D tackle.
I couldn't think of his first name all of a sudden. He's going to have a monster game in this one. Probably force a few turnovers there. So give me the Rams late of 14.5. The Bears, the Mac attack on the road against boy, that Nick Mullins kid's fun to watch. Somebody posted he'd be on pace for like, I don't know, if he played a full season, something like 4,600 yards or something crazy like that. If he had played the full 16 game tilt. That said, he hasn't played against Mac yet. Bears go on the road against the 49ers, laying the 4.5. I'm laying that 4.5.
Oh yeah, that's an easy one, even on the road. Vic Fangio's defense. Yeah, Vic Fangio is one of the best D coordinators in football.
This is going to be a great game, too. Kansas City, Sunday night on the road against Seattle Seahawks. Chiefs laying 2.5 on the road. What you got?
This one's tough, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think that pass rush is going to get home against that Seattle offensive line, which I know has been better, but it's still not great. D Ford's an underrated pass rusher. So going to be a good game, but give me Kansas City.
Seattle really, really needs a win here. They're playing at home. I think they can. I think they can win this by a point. If not, I think they can keep it close. Give me Seattle at home plus the 2.5. The yawner Monday night, Denver at Oakland. Will anybody care? Denver -3.
No to your first question. Denver to your second question.
Yeah, Denver laid the points in this one for me as well. That brings us to the Steelers game against the New Orleans Saints. The Steelers still 6-point road underdogs in this one. Look, you want to make a statement. You want to prove that you are a Super Bowl caliber team. This is the week to do it on the road against a very good Saints team. I'm going to let you go first. Saints laying 6.
Of course you are. Yeah, it's a very similar storyline to last week, maybe without some of the intrigue or the little brother aspect with the Steelers versus Patriots. But again, you're looking at the Saints. Now, the Saints have a better defense in New England. That's going to be a big element to this. The Patriots defense is not nearly what New Orleans brings to the table. But given the confidence I have coming off what they did against the Patriots, the game plan Keith Butler had, the communication that was generally strong, minus the Hogan touchdown, I'm going to have some faith in Pittsburgh here. They win it on a Chris Boswell game-winning field goal from 45 yards out. They win it 30-28.
Boy, that's really pointing to the fence right there.
But I'm going to take my shot. I'm going to call my shot,
Look, I picked against them last week. They proved me wrong.
Yep.
That said, they got to show me one more time, Alex.
Oh.
They got to show me one more time. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to say that I'm confident enough in this defense just yet. But they
played really well against the Patriots.
They did. I don't want to take anything away from that, but I also don't want to take anything away from the Patriots dropping a few balls, in that game as well too. And I know that's part of the game, but this game scares me because it's on the road. I'd have a lot more confidence if they're playing in Pittsburgh, but the Saints, man, maybe it's just recency tape bias from me watching 3 hours of Saints tape last night. I'm going against them this week again. Hopefully they can prove me wrong. I had the Steelers losing this one 35-30 in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. So the over/under is 53. I obviously taking the over in this one as well too. So once again, hopefully I'm proven wrong in this aspect. Got time for where are we at time wise?
We got about 5 minutes. We can do two reader emails.
All right, let's look at the email box here from Steve Oxner. Can you write an article detailing cap space for next year with the increased salary cap? I know that Le'Veon Bell's salary will roll over. Mike Mitchell's dead money will be over. Ryan Shazier's salary will end. Assume Marcus Gilbert will be cut along with Morgan Burnett. Thanks, Steve. I really like to concentrate on that right after the season gets over. Look, I mean, you're going to look at some initial numbers that are floating around, from like over the cap and stuff. Has the Steelers, about $29 million under. That that's just a paper number, because that's only with the players that they got under contract right now for 2019. That's not even a full 51 man. The rule of 51 number there. They've got tenders. They've got there's going to be a few play. I promise you that as soon as the season's over, I'm going to detail all this and start talking about it on the podcast. But it's still a little bit too early right now for me to do that. Victor March writes in. He says, guys, interesting question a listener posed about the Hayden's interception of Brady and where it ranks in all-time single best plays in the Tomlin era. He says, you guys made a good job of pointing out that plays become more meaningful because of what happened in the season afterwards. I think there are quite a few more impactful plays since Tomlin became coach. Here are a few of his favorites and most memorable plays. 12-7, 2008, that game against and I'm not going to read all these complete, but that was the game against Dallas. In the midst of a difficult stretch run of games, 9-3 playing at home against Dallas, they had finally scored a TD in the first time in the game prior to the 2-minute warning to tie the game 13-13. With just under 2 minutes left, Deshae Townsend picks off Tony Romo and returns it for a game-winning turn. Yeah, that was a big game for sure. The week after that, Santonio Holmes barely in the end zone to beat the Ravens. That was the one where it was reviewed if he had possession in the end zone. Another good game there. He goes on to write 12-5-10 Steelers versus Ravens in a game that would really decide the division. Steelers down 10-6 with 3:30 left, and the Troy strip sack Flacco leading to another great play. The Redmond TD that followed it. That was a quick hot to Redmond, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. He wasn't supposed to be on the field. It was supposed to be another back, and he got sent out there for some reason and made the play.
Right. 10-12, 2015. Le'Veon Bell's walk-off TD against the Chargers. 12-7, 2014. He goes how weird some of these happened in the first 2 weeks of December. The 94-yard TD from Ben to Martavis Bryant against Cincinnati to break open a huge win in that game. That was against... was that against Jonathan Joseph?
I don't remember.
I think it was. I think it was a cover one of those cover one situations there. Ben saw single high, went after him. Martavis Bryant went the distance on that one. All right, good choices there, Victor, for sure. Let's see what we got. Oh, but our buddy Eric Sorensen's written back into us. He says, Dear Dave B, so I'm sure you're doing what I'm doing right now, watching a replay of the Saints-Pats game on the NFL channel. I actually was doing that last night. My wife won't watch games with me because I recite all the plays in the Rain Man in the Rain Man voice before they happen. It drives her absolutely bonkers. He says, do you remember when Cordero Patterson got drafted out of Tennessee? Oh, I sure do. So many of us Steeler fans were blinded by his kick return skills, and I keenly remember when you said that the Vikings will give him a playbook and a box of crayons. Crayon Boy is now one of the few targets left for Brady. Like you, I thought he would be only a career special teamer. I wish you and your family a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. P.S. How bad is JuJu's groin injury? We're all concerned about that. I think we answered the JuJu question, Eric. Happy holidays, happy new year to you as well too. Look, Cordell Patterson has stuck around a lot longer than what I thought he has, and kudos to the Patriots for using him the way they've used him. As a running back and things like that. With that said, though, I still bet I bet his playbook section of the playbook is one page with him. Just the football. He's an incredibly talented, athletic kid. Obviously a good return guy. But as far as asking him to do too many things offensively from an X and O standpoint, yikes. And now with them not having Josh Gordon there, and Gronk not being the same play, the Patriots might be in trouble this year. One other one from Dylan Bayer talks about Cameron Jordan. Reading Saints Cameron Jordan's comments from yesterday, it seems pretty well known that Jordan is involved in social justice activism, and I wouldn't be surprised if his comments, feelings toward Ben. Ooh, I hit a Peter Brady moment there. Do you know who Peter Brady is?
Is that Brady Bunch?
Yeah,
So,
the Brady Bunch.
all right.
Yeah.
I don't get the reference.
Okay. The time for change when Peter Brady's the episode of Brady Bunch.
Explaining it is not going to do a thing
All
for
right.
me.
There's an episode where Peter Brady goes through the voice change. Check that one out. Feelings toward Ben stem from these values. Regardless, this brings up a larger point about Ben. Even though his stats would put him in the Hall of Fame, could the NFL and the NFL Hall of Fame voters ultimately keep him out because they don't want to bring up controversy with his past off-the-field issues, especially given emphasis around social justice? Wow, Dylan, you want to be a buzzkill on a Friday morning. Look, I don't think Jordan's comments had anything to do with social injustice and activism or anything like that. I think this is just Cam Jordan running his mouth, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I for one would never tie in the Cam Jordan social justice activism thing with Ben Roethlisberger, to be quite honest with you. I just when I opened up the email, I said I'm not even sure I want to read this because I don't know even how to answer this. I don't think it came from that aspect of it. About the other thing with Ben in the Hall of Fame and his past, no, I don't think that's going to be an issue there. Alex, your turn, and answer both parts of those.
No, I don't think the comments are pointed at any sort of veiled shot about Ben's history, and I don't think it's going to have any impact on Ben getting to the Hall of Fame. I think it's so far in his past, and it's not gonna affect him. He'll get in, on merit. And although he might not be the most well-liked player in the NFL, and that seems to be the case from some of the comments we've heard from Jordan and former running back Josh Harris kind of hinted the same on Twitter yesterday. It's not going to affect what he did on the field, and that was being a top quarterback of his era, and he'll get in without any issue.
All right, one last one. I lied. Greg Jahal. Do you think the run game this past week was more designed delayed runs instead of more improvised delays that Bell does, as Bell has shown to run well against the Patriots? I think it was just merely to get Jalen Samuels a little bit more comfortable to make some reads back there instead of just running those 14 straights. I really think it was more those run designs with either a lineman or tight end being on the move for most of them were mostly to benefit Jalen Samuels and his inexperience as a runner to help him see things develop more.
Right, because patience is going to be a big factor, and Samuels talked about how he thought the key was being patient, and some of the run design was for him to be patient. So obviously you're not going to improvise things the way that Bell did and to kind of, wait and pick your hole. You're going to be more, just follow the assignment. But I thought the scheme just let Samuels be patient, and that was really important for him.
All right, Alex, anything else?
Nope, that's all I got.
All right, we'll get back after it on Monday here. Hopefully we're talking about how right Alex was, how wrong Dave was. Hopefully we're talking about a Ravens loss, a Colts loss, a Titans loss. Show would make for a fun Christmas week of all those things. And remember, the Steelers can clinch a playoff spot. If they win, they can clinch the division. If Baltimore obviously loses or ties, I think that's how the scenario goes. And I think they can clinch a playoff spot if they win, and I think if the Titans and the Colts both lose, or something along those lines there. So hopefully we're talking about the Steelers being in the playoffs on Monday. Follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex Kozora at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. You can email the show, TerriblePodcast@gmail.com. We're trying to read more of these emails that we get on the air moving forward here too. If you don't listen to us again before Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and on. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.